Okay, so we are ready to start looking at Module 3. Module 3, you're going to notice it's we're going to be looking at symmetrical features and geometric construction tools. So if we look at our learning plan for Module 3, the two chapters that we're going to be covering are going to be chapters 11 and 6. So we're going to be focusing this evening on chapter 11. Okay, so we've got a tutorial to look at in chapter 11. And then some problems that are going to be applications of the things that we're going to be learning in that tutorial or in the beginning of chapter 11. The next time we get together, we're going to be looking at chapter 6, and that's going to be looking at some geometric constraints a little bit more on the modeling side of things. Okay, so as we peek down here, there's going to be two tutorials. One is from chapter 11, we're going to be doing tonight, the pulley, and the other one is going to be the gasket tutorial from chapter 6, okay, which we'll be looking at the next time that we're together. And then you're going to notice that kind of like what we've been doing up until this point, we're going to have some practice problems, which are those tutorials that are going to be part of what you hand in, and then we're going to have assignment 3. So a couple problems from each one of the chapters that we see here. So we're going to look at, and I've already opened up my SolidWorks, but I'm going to go into my book. And starting in chapter 11 here officially on page 11.3, we're going to be looking at symmetrical features in design. So the part that we're going to be drawing tonight is this pulley right here. And we're going to be predominantly using the revolve command, but we're also going to be seeing how to apply the mirror command as well as some linear and circular patterns. Okay, so we're going to be seeing how we can get like that bolt hole pattern in there as well. So as it kind of starts out here, feel free to kind of look here. It just kind of highlights our feature that we're going to be using. And then on the next page here, it looks at the strategy or the process that we're going to be going through. So we're going to be using what we call the revolve command, and the revolve command is going to require us when we have parts that have, for instance, a center line. So a pulley, if we look back over here, I think it had the center line in there. This pulley, we look down, it has a center line. And if we would kind of look around there, the same cross section goes all the way around. So what we're going to do is you're going to notice the center line here. We're going to draw just a portion of that cross section, but then we're going to revolve it all the way around, and we're going to get the form to look like this. Okay, it's pretty slick. It's a really nice, fast way to create these parts rather than doing all separate extrudes. You could do extrudes on this if you wanted to, but the revolve ends up being really efficient. You get like all of this done in like one feature, which is really nice. So we're going to see how that works and how we apply that. Once we have the one side done, we're going to mirror it to make the full thickness then. Okay. And then we're going to be putting a hole in place. And then we're going to be creating what we call a circular pattern for the rest of the holes on there as well. Okay. So on the next pages then are going to be the specific step-by-step tutorial that we're going to be doing. Now, the first part here says open up SolidWorks and make sure that your command line is available, or your command manager, and that you have your IPS and C units, that template that we created. Then what we're going to do is we're going to be using that revolve command to start our sketch. And our sketch is going to be started on the following page here on 11.6. So in the background here, I've kind of got SolidWorks already set up and ready for me to get started. You'll notice that I have my graphics here. I'm in IPS. I clicked on my template, so all my settings are there. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the feature tab, and we're going to, instead of doing extrude boss base this time, we are actually going to do the revolve boss base. Okay, so we're going to click on that and go straight in. Then we're going to click on the front plane here. Okay, the front plane. And now we kind of, are normal to that front plane, and we see our origin. Now, whenever I know that I'm in the revolve command, the first thing I do, the book doesn't do this. The first thing I do is I put my center line in place. I think that's important because that's going to be the feature that is required to do the actual revolve. So put that in right away. So I'm going to go up to my line command here. I'm going to arrow down, go to my center line. And then from the origin, I'm just going to create a horizontal line. Okay. And then hit escape. So there's my center line. Okay. And that's what the revolve is going to revolve around. Now we're going to look underneath here. We're going to create a sketch that looks like what we see here. Okay. Something to keep in mind, this vertical line here and this vertical line are not in line with one another. Okay. This one is shallower and this one's further out. The origin is down here and the center line that we just created is right down here. So we want to put this kind of up and to the right, okay, intentionally off of the origin, okay? So go ahead and create that form. I'm going to kind of scooch mine down here. Just do the line command and I'm going to start mine right about here. Horizontal up. Remember that this one's a little more shallow on the top and come down. Okay. Once we have that in place, we want to tie it to the origin. Okay. And this is this was their process, which I think is good. So let's say you're not on the origin and you're like, oh crap, I forgot to put this in relationship to the origin. We're not going to move this whole thing to the origin, but we're going to just slide it over basically. So we're going to add a relation and we're going to take this line, not the point, you want the line, and you're going to then click on the origin. So you want line 9 or whatever number it is, but you want that vertical line, the longest line, and point 1, which is our origin. Okay. We want those to be coincident. Okay. Even though they're not, the line won't go on top of the point, but now it's going to align perfectly vertical over that origin. Okay. And that's part of its definition. We're going to be adding a little bit more soon. So you can just hit okay. And now this means that it's along or it's in line with the origin. Okay. Now we've got to add our dimensions. Okay. We've got to add our dimensions. Now, for this particular part, all of these things are going to be diameters, okay? Even though there's lines here, remember, this is going to revolve around that center, and each one of these values are diameters. If we turn the page, all of the diameters are shown on 11/8 in this illustration right here. So we're going to be adding all of these dimensions, and each one of these is a diameter, okay? So if I go back to SolidWorks to put these in as diameters, what we need to do is we're going to smart dimension, but we're going to click on the center line first. So click on the center line and then click, in this case, the bottom line. Okay. And then you're going to notice that you get a dimension. If you go between the center line and that bottom line, you're going to get the dimension. But don't click yet, just go down below the center line and do you see how all of a sudden it goes down on the other side? That's a diameter dimension and this is going to be 0.75. Okay. Then we're going to go to the next point and we're going to do another smart dimension, center line first, but now we're going to click on that point and then we're going to go down below the center line to create the next one, and that one's going to be 1.25. Okay. Then we're going to the next point. And this one is going to be 1.5. The next one is center line to the point down below. And this one is going to be 3.5. Now, this is what happened to me, because mine wasn't tall enough. If this happens to you at any point, what I like to do is I like to say, oh crap, I'm going to undo that. So I'm going to hit my escape key and I'm going to go up to my undo here. Okay. And instead of putting that dimension in, I'm going to take that dimension, I'm going to delete it. I'm gonna add the top dimension then, the taller one, because what happened was this went taller than what the actual part is. So now I'm going to do my smart dimension again, center line, and I'm gonna go to the very top line, okay? And then down below, and I want that dimension to be 4 inches, okay? So it made it a lot taller. Then I'm gonna kind of go to my next point, not to the one I had before, but I'm gonna go to this one. And I'm gonna say, okay, center line to this point, down below the center, is going to be 3.75. There we go. And then now I'm gonna do that point that kind of went a little haywire on me. This one is gonna be 3.5. Okay, so now I've got each of those vertical diameters, if you would, in place. So I have all of these diameters in place. All right, the last 3 that I need to add are the width 0.75, the width 0.5, and then the thickness here of that web as 0.125. So I'm still in smart dimension. So I'm just going to go to now, if I click on that horizontal line, it's going to think that it's a diameter except like in that mode. So just hit the escape key and do it again. Oopsie. Smart dimension. And now it should default back to kind of the normal mode. Okay, that's 0.75 there. 0.5 up on top. And then from this line to that line, 0.125. And now you should be fully defined with these dimensions. Okay. Okay. Now I am fully defined. I'm ready to exit my sketch and do my revolve. Because I went in on my revolve, it's going to remember that just like it does for extrude and cut. So once I exit here, it's going to automatically go to that revolve command. And now what's happened is now it's taking that cross section and it's revolving it around that center line. Because we had that center line in there, it assumed that line number 1 that we drew, which was that center line, was the axis. If you need to, you can always change that or specify that, but it indeed did exactly what we wanted it to. And we wanted to go around 365 or 360 degrees. If you wanted it to be different angle, you could change that as well. Okay. But in this case, we wanted to go all the way around, and this looks good. This looks really good. So I'm going to hit OK. If I click off of it, there's my first half. It's like one side of the pulley. Let's do a save as, and I'm going to go to, this is module 3. Yeah. Module 3. And this is going to be the pulley. Okay. Now I'm not done. I want to rename that revolve one that really doesn't mean anything to me. So I'm going to go rename tree item, and we'll call this pulley profile. Okay. I'm going to go underneath the camera, and where we are at, we just got done with the revolve on the bottom of page 11.9. And now we are ready to take that one side and mirror it to create the full thickness. Okay. So we already did the revolve command for one side of that cross section. Now we're going to take this flat side and we're going to mirror it on the other side to get the full thickness, if you would, on both sides. So I'm going to go back to SolidWorks here. So what we have is that same thing that we see on page 11.10. So we want to take this feature, this whole side, and we want to mirror it to the other side. So to do that, we're going to stay on our feature tab. This is what I call the feature level. We're going to do this mirror. So I'm going to select my pulley profile. You're going to see these dimensions here, that all those dimensions are, is the 365 degrees on the 360 degrees on the revolve. You don't have to worry about it. It doesn't really affect anything. I just need to select that profile. And then if we go over to the right, you're going to see the mirror command about 3/4 of the way down. I'm going to click mirror. Okay. Now, what it wants to know is, what is the mirror face that we want to mirror on, or the plane? Well, you'll notice that our pulley is up here in the graphics area. We're going to left click on that to expand this out. And we're just going to look if there's a plane that coincides with this. So here's my front plane. I'm not going to mirror on that one. Here's my top plane, not going to mirror that, but here's my right plane. Do you see how that is along that surface? Okay. We could either pick the surface. I could pick the surface directly by just hovering over it and left clicking it, or I could pick the right plane. Either one will get us the mirror at the exact same place. Okay. I'm going to pick the plane. All right. And then it gives us a preview of what it's going to do. Not a full preview, but I wonder if it does a full preview. No, it just does a partial. Okay. So it looks good. And I'm just going to hit my OK button. And now you'll notice that it mirrored it over that. Okay. You don't need to rename the mirror, but you want to expand out your pulley profile so I can see that that is fully defined. So here you should have your part, and then we have it revolved around the center, and then now we have it mirrored for its full thickness on either side. So again, do a quick save on that pulley for right here. All right. So let's go underneath our screen to catch ourselves up. So now we're down here at the bottom of page 1110. We're ready to put our bolt hole pattern in. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do, if we turn the page, kind of does a little bit of talking. You can read through that. But we are going to, at the top of page 1112, we're going to add our hole up and to the right here of our origin. Okay. So we are going to, back to SolidWorks here. We're going to do an extrude cut. And we are going to go on that right plane. I want to draw on that plane right through the middle. Okay, on the right plane. And I'm going to sketch then my hole. And from the origin, it's going to be up and to the right in this flat area, right about there. Okay. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the diameter, and the diameter is going to be, I'm going to peek ahead, a 1/2 inch, 0.5. Okay. It's going to be a 1/2 inch, but we're not fully defined. We have to locate this, but the location of this is not going to be an X and a Y value. It's from the origin. We're actually going to put in an angle. Okay. And to do that, we need to add some what we call construction lines. Okay. So this is something that's new. I'm going to hit OK here. We're going to add a construction line. So we're just going to draw just a regular line. Or does it do construction? No. We're going to add a construction line, but we start with a regular line, and then we're going to call it construction. So regular line, we're going to start at the origin or the center of our circle that we just drew to the origin of our part. And then we're going to do another line, keep going horizontal out beyond the outside of our pulley, just like that. And then we're going to hit escape to stop that. Now we're going to individually select those two lines, just one at a time. We're going to select, I'm going to do the angled line first, just left click it, select it, and click on construction. These are the line properties. And I'm going to hit OK. Notice that it changed to a center line. Okay, it's no longer a solid line. That's how it's identifying that's a construction line now. This is not a center line. We're not going to extrude this line. It's not going to be part of that sketch. Really, it's part of the sketch, but it's not going to be something that's going to be part of our feature. And then we're going to do that same thing, left click on our horizontal line, and then do for construction and hit OK. It's important that these lines start at the origin of that hole, go to the origin of the part, and then horizontal out beyond our pulley. Okay. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we want to set this angle here from the horizontal to our circle to be 30 degrees. So we're going to go to Smart Dimension, and we're going to first left click on the angled line and then left click on the horizontal line. And then it goes into an angle mode. Okay. And once it's there, you're going to left click where you want to place it. And we're going to change this to 30 degrees. We're going to hit OK. Now that sets kind of its rotation angle, but we now need to know how far from the center is this? Again, we're not going to do it with a linear dimension. We're going to do it with what we call a bolt hole circle. Okay, you've probably heard that before when we look at patterns of holes that are on like circular parts like this. So we're going to draw a circle like we did before with the line. We're going to start the origin in the center, but the origin, the radius is going to stop at the axis or the center of our hole. Okay. And we're going to say, okay. Then we're going to left click back on that circle. This is the line properties or the circle properties, and we're going to hit for construction. All right. Just like we did before. And now that becomes that center line type of line. Okay. Now we're going to add a dimension on there. The diameter of that bolt hole circle needs to be 2.5. So we're going to smart dimension this. You can either put it on the inside or the outside. I'm going to put it on the outside, 2.5. And now you're going to notice that when I stop dimensioning, now I'm fully defined, because now I have number one for that circle, I have a diameter for it, so I know its size. And now based on the angle and that it's on this bolt hole circle of 2.5, it's fully defined without having X and Y linear dimensions. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So you're going to come upon a lot of like hole patterns like this that are bolt hole circles. And this is how we would construct them in the sketch. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we are fully defined. We're going to exit our sketch. Okay. Now it's going to remember that we had that cut, that extrude cut, right? So it's going to want to, now remember, I picked my right plane. So I'm sketching in the middle of my part here. So instead of it being a through all, I want this to be a mid plane. Okay. And then I need to identify the dimension. Okay. So the thickness of the inside is 1/8 of an inch times 2. So 0.25 total. And then we can hit OK. And now you should see it go through. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to left click, right click, rename, and this is going to be my 0.50 bolt hole. Okay. All right. I'm going to do a file save on this. Okay. Now, if we wanted to change the angle, and they have us actually do that, and we're actually on page, we're on page 1115. We just put this hole in place here. And then it says on your own, adjust that angle to 90 degrees, the one that was 30. Okay. Now to do this, we can do it one of two ways. If I go back here, traditionally, we would expand this out. We click on the sketch and we do the edit sketch mode. But notice when I click on that sketch, left click on that sketch, my dimensions become active. Okay. So I can change my 30 degrees right here without going into the sketch. I can double click on the 30 and I can change that to 90. Now I'll hit OK. It doesn't look like anything happened, but in order to see this hole go to its right position, click the rebuild. And now you're going to notice that it goes up to the top. So when we see that red and green light in front of our sketch, that means rebuild, and then you'll see it go where it needs to go. We'll do that again. I'm going to left click on that sketch again, and I'm going to go back to my 30 degrees because I really want it where that needs to be. Double click on the 90, go back to 30. Okay, notice there's that red and green light in front. Hit the rebuild up on the top here, and then now it'll go back to that 30-degree mark. Okay, quick save. All right. So we are at the bottom here of page 1115. Then we've got one of our holes in here. We've got on the bolt circle. We've got it fully defined. Now what we want to do is we want to finish up that pattern. Okay. So we are going to be using the circular pattern function to do that for us. Okay. So back to SolidWorks. We are going to left click and select the 1/2 inch bolt hole. Okay. 1/2 inch bolt hole. You want to be on the feature level here, and we are going to go up to, right now, linear pattern is on the top, but you'll notice that there are arrows down below. So I'm gonna left click down and right below it is circular pattern. Okay, so I want to use the circular pattern. Okay. And the first thing it's asking is the direction we want to go in, what it needs there. And you'll notice down here, it says select the edge or the axis that we want this to go around. So right now there isn't an axis to grab onto. So we need to see it. Up here on our heads up menu, where you see the eyeball, hide and show items, we're going to left click down, and right below the planes here, you want to view temporary axes. Okay, I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to left click out in the graphics, and you're not going to notice that now this axis appeared. This is the axis that I want to be the center of my circular pattern. So I'm going to left click on it. Now you're going to notice that it's going to put some holes in here. Now, depending on the settings, the number of holes comes from right here, just below the 360 degrees. This is the number of what we call instances of that pattern. If yours does not say 5, put 5 in there. So for instance, if there was 8, it's going to evenly space 8 around. But we want 5 for what we have going on. Okay. And once you look at that and you see, okay, yep, that looks good. That looks good. You can hit okay. All right. And you've got your bolt circle all in place.
Show us 5 before you hit okay.
Yeah. 5 is the number. If we go in there, I'm going to edit that. 5 is the number right here below the 360. Make sure that that's the number. That's the number of instances of that part.
Wasn't getting it to show.
Okay. All right. And then now that's our finished part, and that's our finished tutorial. So file, save. The tutorial continues on, and the next part of this tutorial in here, we are not going to be taking time to draw drawing borders. I have drawing borders that you're going to be downloading when we start using borders, which is going to be in module 4. But I'm not going to have you guys draw those, okay? Because we're just going to use them. When you're at a company, they're going to have their own borders as well. If you ever do want to draw your own borders and know how to do that, Chapter 11 continues on and gives you all those details, but we're not going to be doing that as part of this class. So the tutorial ends here on page 1117, okay? So I am just going to fit this to my screen. I'm going to scooch it over a little bit. And this is going to be our first practice problem. So if you wanted to take your screenshot here, this is exactly what we want. And make sure that you have your pulley profile and the 1/2-inch bolt hole sketches expanded out so that I can see those. And then this is going to be your first module 3 practice problem. There's 2 of them. So we'll do another one the next time we're together.